Hi there, and thank you so much for joining me. This talk is one of a number of talks within a three-part series where I talk about what enterprise architecture is, how to implement it, and ways to mature the enterprise architecture practice within an organization. This talk is about what an enterprise architect is and the characteristics that make them successful. So an enterprise architect is an individual that works with senior executives to move an organization through change. Their job is to focus on ensuring business goals and objectives are met, risk and liability vulnerabilities are reduced, projects are aligned, and the organization's ability to respond to change is increased. So the important point to remember is an enterprise architect does not need to have experience within your business. They are not the expert. What their job is to work with senior executives to pull out what they want and the direction that the organization is moving towards, and then work with subject matter experts across the organization to come up with a plan. The plan needs to stay at a very high level. It never gets down into the weeds or starts solutioning and talking about how things are going to be done. The goal of the high level is to identify components that must be achieved in order to tie everything together and make sure that those critical success factors are met. So let me try and give you an example so that you can understand the way that the enterprise architect thinks and the things that they focus on. So if we were to think about a building architect who's working with a couple who's trying to come up with a plan for their house to meet the needs of the next chapter in their life. So they might start talking about the fact that they have 3 grown children and they want to have enough room for the children and grandchildren to come back to visit. They might tell you about their goal is to have a home-based business where they sell baked goods and cater to parties. They might tell you that they really enjoy watching movies and they would love to have that full home theater package with the surround sound. They might also mention that the music is continually playing in their house during the day because they love the company. So as an architect, one of the first things I would start with, of course, is to understand what their budget is and their timelines. But more important than that, I want to start to get a prioritization on all of those things that they just listed. I really want to get a handle on what are their needs and what are their wants. This is going to help me put an order to that path that I was talking about. That plan for this couple would never ever include things like appliances or details about the home theater equipment, because for all I know, those projects might not spark up for 5 years. And technology and appliances could look very different in 5 years than they do now. What is important to have in my plan is the fact that they want that gourmet kitchen because they want to start up a home-based business and cater and sell baked goods. What's important is they do want that home theater system with all the surround sound and fancy gadgets that come with it. What else is important is the fact that they want music, and they want to be able to listen to music in every room and possibly on their deck. So if I were to describe some of the characteristics for this enterprise architect, I would start by saying that they really need to be passionate about business transformation. If you think about it, the enterprise architect is the one that's really leading and pulling all of this information together. So they have to be excited and they have to bring the whole organization along and ensure them that this change is a good thing and it's going to benefit them and that they want it. I think of them as a detective because they're trying to pull out and really understand what it is the senior executives want. You don't often get a lot of time with senior executives, so you have to be able to really ask the right questions to pull out and understand what they want and the priorities of what they want. I think of them as both a facilitator and a translator. A facilitator from the perspective that they have to bring subject matter experts across the organization together to come up with that plan. They have to, tease out the important parts and make sure that everybody stays at that higher level to really talk about what is going to be included in the plan. The translator part of it is, they need to translate those fluffy conceptual ideas down into production operations. They need to translate those business needs and underlying issues into possible technical solutions. And the last point here, in my eyes, has got to be the most critical. So going back to my example on the previous slide, the enterprise or the architect must know enough about wiring, plumbing, standards, door sizes, parking requirements, types of appliances, and things like that. They need to be able to understand what's required behind all of that so that they can talk to, the electricians, the plumbers, the municipal workers. They need to be able to identify to them what is important for what that family wants, so that you can ensure things are thought of and planned early enough so that it doesn't cost you later on to try and put them in. For example, the wiring. It's very important that the electrician know that they want this gourmet kitchen so he can think about things like circuits and outlets to ensure that, it can handle the load if they were to bring in, fancier appliances. It's important for him to know about that surround sound and fancy equipment. It's important for him to know about the fact they want music in every room, including the deck. This way he can ask the questions and he could possibly put more wires in the walls while it's being framed up in preparation for them bringing the equipment on at a later time if they even want. So if you remember from my previous talk about being that critical strategic player, they connect those dots. Well, that's what I'm talking about. It's the enterprise architect that's really going to understand what those critical pieces are that they've heard from the family members or the senior executives, and make sure that they're translated down and mentioned to the right people on the floor that do the work. So in conclusion, the way I like to look at an enterprise architect is, first off, they never assume a project's successful based on timelines and budgets. They always start with asking why. Why do you want to do that? Why are you doing it? What are you trying to do? And then how would you measure it? Because as soon as you talk about how you would measure it or determine success, it really starts to change the conversation as to what they're really trying to get at. Personally, I like to think of an enterprise architect as someone who loves to conserve energy. So for me, right up front, I want to know what success looks like. I don't want to fail, and I don't want to, spend a lot of time spinning wheels doing something when it's not really what you wanted. In order to really understand what success is, I need to know exactly from your eyes what you want and how you would define or measure the fact that I did it right. So for more information on this topic and others that I've discussed, please visit my website. So thanks again for joining me, and catch me next time when I'm going to talk about what enterprise architecture is.